A remarkable election campaign and a remarkable post-election period, and I think that she and the Labour Party did an extraordinary job of turning around their campaign and getting into the position where Jacinda Ardern may now be the Prime Minister of New Zealand. I also really want to acknowledge and to thank Bill English and all of the members of the National Caucus and the National Government for their many years of service. They also fought an extraordinary campaign, and they finished with a very good result that they ought to be proud of. And I want to acknowledge Bill English in particular for his long years of service, and in particular the last year or so that he's been the Prime Minister of New Zealand. The Green Party is currently discussing a proposed confidence and supply arrangement with a new Labour-led government. We are very excited about this opportunity, and it does include ministers for the first time in the Green Party's history. So this is an historic moment for the Green Party and for our movement, because for the first time we are going to be probably in a position to have ministerial control in the areas that are important to us and the areas that we campaigned on in this last election campaign. Now, I can't go into much of the nature of the agreement beyond that. I'm happy to take some questions, but we are still discussing it at the moment, and that call is progressing well. It's been fairly well advertised. Most of you know, of course, that we've been holding over most of the evenings for the last week or so for this moment. And so that's what we're going through. But I think that we should be in a position in the next wee while to say that the conditions have been met for a new change of government.
How confident?
I haven't quite finished yet.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
So I was going to say, the other thing I was going to say is that, look, we fought an election campaign on three priorities. That we had three big goals for New Zealand that we stood for in this election campaign. First, that we would make New Zealand a world leader in the fight against global climate change. We now have the opportunity to do that. We also said that we wanted to restore and replenish our forests and our birds and our rivers, and we now have the opportunity to do that. And the third thing that we said is that we wanted to be in a position to have a real crack at ending child poverty in this country once and for all. And we are now in a position to have the opportunity to do that. So this is an opportunity for a transformative government for New Zealand, for a new generation of leadership to take over and to set a new path for this country. It's an opportunity that I'm incredibly excited about, and I look forward to concluding the process on in the not too distant future.
How confident?
Very.
How confident are you of getting a sign up to the deal? And when you say the not too distant future, how long are we looking at?
Well, it'll be tonight, and I'm very confident. I have to say that the Green Party fought very strongly for a change of government. You'll remember, of course, in a room not too far from here, about 18 months ago, I co-signed the Memorandum of Understanding with then Labour leader Andrew Little, saying that we were committed to working with them to change the government. We are now in a position to do that.
How many ministerial...
Yeah, are you in cabinet?
No, this is a confidence and supply arrangement, so we will have three ministers who will be outside cabinet, and we will also have one under secretarial role.
Have you decided who those MPs would be? Clearly yourself and potentially Janie Sage, who's standing behind you, and somebody else? No,
we haven't had that discussion, and I want to do the new Prime Minister, the presumptive Prime Minister, the courtesy of allowing her to form a cabinet and in consultation with her own colleagues and with those of New Zealand.
But you must have discussed the portfolios that those ministerial positions would be attached to.
The portfolios are outlined in our coalition agreement, and so our confidence and supply agreement, and so they will become public. But I wanted to give the Prime Minister some time for her to put together that cabinet before we release that.
Are you disappointed that you're not going to be in cabinet when those big decisions are made?
No, I'm not. And in fact, this is actually a really good position for us to be in. So you have to remember that because we will have ministerial roles, we will sit on a series of cabinet committees and have full membership of those committees in the areas that are most important to us in terms of delivering on our coalition goals. And we will be in cabinet for those discussions that are relevant to our interests. And also, we have the ability to, shall we say, retain our distinctiveness, which as a small party, and we are very mindful of our election night result, that we retain a level of distinctiveness and that independence. And I think that is important for us in this very first time that we will be in government. You were saying last week that didn't matter to you and that you preferred the power and influence of a coalition arrangement rather than the freedom of a confidence and supply deal. Well, so we looked at a whole range of possible options, and it ranged from sitting on the crossbenches right through to the heart in coalition. Actually, where we've landed up, we think, is a really good place for us to be at this particular time for the first time that we're entering government. Was this the payoff for a place in a Labour New Zealand First Greens government? Was what the payoff? Confidence and supply rather than coalition positions around the cabinet? No, I think for us the most important thing is do we have the ability to lead in those areas that are most important to us and that we campaigned on. And so the set of roles that we have does deliver on that, and so I'm really pleased. So it was either this or not have ministerial positions, basically, wasn't it? Because last week your preference was coalition, and now you're saying you're happy with confidence and supply. Look, what I was after was to make sure that we had the ability to lead on the issues that we campaigned on, and I'm really confident that the agreement that we're currently discussing delivers that for us. So
now that you've not co-leader of the Green Party, whoever that may be, is he one of those ministerial roles?
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. That is still some months away. So the roles that we've got, of course, will be assigned amongst our existing caucus and leadership. So we'll just have to deal with that further down the track.
So you're meeting with your delegates tonight. How close were you to that 75% mark?
So the call hasn't finished. There are something like 155 people on the call, and they're asking lots of really good questions. As you can anticipate, there's a great deal of interest in the nature of the agreement, how it's going to work, and so on. And so we're currently working through because we want to give that process the fullness of time.
But you need to get that 75% before you can progress, right?
Yes, that's right.
So what will be the fate?
Sorry, Andrew. So during the course of the election campaign, what we said is that we didn't actually have a firm proposal for the commercial use of water, except to say that it is an issue that we have to deal with as a country, and we wanted to set up a working group inside of this Parliament to do that. What we proposed instead, actually, was a nitrogen pollution levy. So that was one of the policies that was discussed, along with, I have to say, a great many other policies as well. But Andrew, all of that will become clear in the next few days. The areas where the Green Party, I guess those areas where we are going to be leading on will be outlined in the coalition agreement. We will release that in the next few days.
Is the ETS going to stay in place?
Sorry?
Is the ETS going to stay in place?
Well, like I said, we're going to reveal all of the content of the policies that are related in that agreement over the course of the next couple of days. The first thing that we have to deal with, which Jacinda will be dealing with tomorrow or the day after, will be around portfolio assignments and making sure that that's fully sorted. How much do you know about...
The confidence and supply agreement will give you the room, won't it, to vote against Labour and New Zealand First, as, for example, Peter Dunn did on the RMA in the last government?
Yes, on some issues, obviously not on confidence and supply issues, but this is one of the things I think is fantastic about this particular arrangement. This government, should it come to pass, will be the first truly MMP government. And it actually has an enforced consensus because it requires all three of the parties to it to agree, to actually have consensus in order to be able to pass legislation. How much? And so one of the things I really like about this agreement is it actually forces us to work together more than has been the case in previous arrangements. How much do you know about the New Zealand First deal, and how can you be confident signing off your special delegates signing off now on a deal without maybe having full knowledge, or do you? No, so I haven't seen the New Zealand First arrangement. They have been negotiated separately. That is actually completely normal. If you look at the history of MMP governments in New Zealand, they have all been negotiated separately, and the individual parties haven't seen those before they've been signed and become public. But I have to say, and I really want to give credit to Jacinda Ardern and her team over at Labour, because they managed to negotiate agreements with both New Zealand First First and with Labor, in the understanding that those agreements could not be inconsistent with each other.
I was going to say,
So-
presumably you've had the assurance you're not going to get any nasty surprises
That's right.
when you see the New Zealand
And
First
New
Labor
Zealand
deal.
First have been provided the same assurance that they won't be, presented with any nasty surprises in relation to our policy program as well. That's why I say that this is one of those rare and beautiful moments where actually we are forced to find what we have in common rather than what distinguishes us from each other, and I think that's tremendously exciting.
You've arguably had the toughest run up to this election. When Winston Peters announced that he was going with Labor, what went through your head at that moment?
Look, we were in our kind of staff open area and had some dinner and were watching it on the big screen, and we were elated. This is an historic moment for the Green Party and for our movement to have the opportunity to enter into government properly for the first time with full ministerial control over a suite of portfolios that allow us to deliver on the things that we campaigned on. That is an extraordinary moment for us. And yes, as you say, we had an incredibly tough campaign. We think we had a strong finish. But given some of the circumstances of the campaign, I'm really pleased with tonight's results.
Given you have been polling
Sorry,
about
Andrea.
months ago, you and Ministerial stood up and called for Winston Peters arrests. How do you now explain that to the public?
Well, as I said on election night, not every party has everything in common, and during the course of an election campaign, of course, one of the things that you try and do is to distinguish yourself from the other parties, to give people a reason to vote for you and not the other parties as well. But once the election happens, what you have to look for if you want to form a government is what do we have in common. So I think it's important that we let bygones be bygones and that we work out how to build a really constructive working relationship with each other for the sake of the country. I mean, that is actually the most important thing. Sorry, Ryan.
When he continues to make xenophobic comments, as he has done throughout his career, are you going to stand by or are you going to criticise him and call out for it?
I think one of the things about having a confidence and supply arrangement is that it gives us the ability to stick with our values, to retain our distinctiveness and to have that voice. And if we feel that there are things that we need to make a call on with those who are in opposition or even with those with whom we're working, that we have the ability to do that.
Would you think you'll get see Winston Peters as Deputy Prime Minister, and do you think that's the best move for the country?
Look, I don't have an opinion on whether he should be taking up that role or not. I've always said that we would be happy to work with him in government and to work for the betterment of the country. He has, you have to hand it to the guy. He has a very long history in politics. He is our most experienced politician in the country. And I've been assured by colleagues in the Labor Party that when they have worked with him in the past, notably when he was Foreign Affairs Minister, that he did a really good job and he was really not easy to work with, but constructive, professional, and got on with the job. And so I anticipate that he'll bring those same qualities to the roles, whatever those roles are, in this government as well.
And he did say in stand-up that he neither hates you nor the Green Party. Did you ever think that he did?
No, I didn't. I think that a lot of what I've noticed during the course of this election campaign is a lot of the mythology and history that stems from 2005 or 1996 or other points. And as I kept saying during the course of the election campaign, a lot has changed in the last 12 years. There's been almost an entire change of personnel, and a lot of history has passed. He has changed, and his views have changed as well. So I think that we've got the basis for a good, constructive working relationship.
Will the Kermadec deal be passed now?
Look, like I said in answer to some other questions, I can't get into the specifics of what the policy arrangements are inside the
sanctuary.
What I'm saying is that all will become clear over the course of the next couple of days. But I want to give the new Prime Minister the opportunity for her to form her government and to release those things according to her schedule. She's the boss. I'll follow her lead.
Have you heard from Ministerial?
No, I haven't. Sorry. We've been a little bit busy preparing for this. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.